It worked. Okay, I don't have much time. So I want to introduce to you my new heading. You can put this under Operation Codebreak, Operation Sedna, CS, CROA, whatever. So first of all, we're going to start with Yoshimi robots. This is like the song of the moment. This is the historical moment for this song. This song is perfect. This song is amazing. Anyway, so Yoshimi's battling the pink robots, okay? And so I'm Yoshimi, right? I'm not going to let the robots eat you, right? So who are the robots, right? So that's what is in the thing, right? We have esoteric. You don't need to call it neo-Nazism. There's no real point to do that. It's just esoteric Nazism. Yeah, it doesn't have its own. There's also occultism and Nazism. Go ahead. So, I mean, the pioneers here are Miguel Serrano and Savitri Devi. So basically, the reason why this is such a big problem is that, like, yeah, your political stories cannot defeat esoteric neo-Nazism because it's at a too high of a logical type. So logical type, we're going back to Russell. I have my favorite page I always like to show you. Theory of logical types. So again, this is also going back to just the very core mechanic. This is a game mechanic. You need to understand this. It's the game mechanic of abstraction. So the thing is, you're going to gain discourse power. I think that's a Substack. You know, there's a whole thing, discourse power. This is about China, and this person is, you know, not worth reading, really. But anyway, you know, you're going to gain discourse power by abstracting over things. So say, you know, you're a band, and now you put your stuff on backpacks. Like, people get backpacks anyway. So now you're abstracting over backpacks by putting your Nirvana logo on a backpack. So now when people go to do something that they're doing anyway, now you're involved and you get a freaking cut, right? So now imagine that instead of abstracting over backpacks, you're abstracting over sex, you're abstracting over cosmology, you're abstracting over purpose in general, right? So that is how you gain discourse power. So, I mean, you'll obviously know every discourse abstracts, for example, again, over sex, death, dreaming, right? Like, food, right? Have you ever noticed how every culture has like special foods that come from the place where they themselves come from, and yet also, even if they import stuff, they put their own spin on it and everything? Did you ever notice how food is kind of a big deal, right? Okay, so in the same way, you know, it turns out, you know, history is a big deal, and so abstracting over different parts of history and in this totalizing way is very important. So the fact, like, what makes esoteric neo-Nazism powerful, right? The answer to that question is that it's abstracting over all sorts of things. So, for example, like UFOs and Nazis is a whole thing, right? So, like the esoteric Nazism, all of a sudden, you know, because of stuff like Nordic Aliens, you know, all of a sudden, esoteric Nazism is tied in with UFOs and aliens, right? So where is, you know, what's American liberalism's answer to that, right? What's Christianity's answer to that? Because Christianity or Judaism, I mean, you'll sit here and people will sit here and talk about, you know, like, what would aliens mean for Judaism? It's like, well, what would aliens mean for esoteric neo-Nazism? Like, it's still an open question, because, I mean, the question of, like, if these Nordic aliens exist and what's going on with them, that is, you know, an open question. But still, and so, like, the reality of aliens could still cut against core claims of neo-Nazism, or esoteric neo-Nazism. But the problem is, like, they already have, you know, a very well worked out. And not only that, right? I mean, Miguel Serrano, let me control search Vishnu here. He didn't do that. I thought he was also on this tip. Right? So the idea that Adolf Hitler is an avatar of the Hindu god Vishnu, like, this is what I would call a powerful idea, right? I mean, like, what is your answer to this? Like, do you think George Washington was an avatar of Vishnu? Do you think, you know, who is your, I mean, obviously a lot of people wouldn't want to go there, but it's like, the reason why it's so powerful is that it's interlocking. So this is now abstracting over Hinduism. It's abstracting over Vedic. And I mean, there's also a sense in which this abstracting over is never complete. This can be contested because, you know, it's sort of like stepping on a lily pad or something. You're a platform, and that's what you're abstracting over. But it can always turn out, right? It's sort of like you take a step into the puddle. It turns out the puddle is a big thing, and now you're dead, right? So you were trying to like every step you take, right? It's important to understand this. Like abstraction is not logic. It's not like, oh no, it's so complicated. Forget the fact that you don't know how to think, and you're just so lazy and learned helplessness coded that you're just like, that's too abstract. You never sit down and actually fucking try anyway. But otherwise, abstraction is very practical. Like, even at the level of idiot that you are, like, you're doing abstraction. Like, that's what they say. You know, humans do abstract thought. Of course, you know, humans is a problematic abstraction. Go back to Afro-pessimism anyway. But so, yeah, the ability of humans to think abstractly plays a central role in intellectual progress, whatever. Like, it's also super basic. The idea I'm hungry is you're doing abstraction. So don't tell me something's too abstract for you. Tell me you're too lazy or cowardly to do it, okay? Which is take some fucking responsibility and stop acting like I'm weird when I'm the only fucking normal person there is. Anyway. So anywho, we're doing abstraction. So when you take a step, right? If you take a step, you're abstracting over your legs, right? So there's people who can't walk. Spoiler alert, right? There's people who are born with no legs. So like they don't know what walking is because like they can watch people walk, but they don't know the experience of walking. So they can't abstract over like, oh, let me go. Like if you're like, I'm hungry, let me walk to the refrigerator. Like there's so much abstraction that's going on there. Anyway, so like again, we have esoteric neo-Nazism attempting to abstract over Vedic philosophy and whatever by basically saying that, you know, again, Adolf Hitler's an avatar of Vishnu. So I mean, there's probably a lot of things, probably not all esoteric neo-Nazis or what Nazis like think this, but this is right, you know, the like tying everything into the Kali Yuga and all the different messianic ages. Like that's giving you power, right? Because you're abstracting over these powerful stories that have been building for a long time. Again, like it's important for me to emphasize to you, I'm not like happy about this. Like I'm not here like, oh, look how amazing esoteric Nazism is. Like, no, like this is the robot that's gonna kill you, right? Like this is like very dangerous, right? But so the thing is, what can oppose this? I mean, and I guess I got to introduce Eurasianism because it's basically the same thing. You know, especially if you're talking about Duginism. I don't know if that has it. Probably doesn't have its own Wikipedia page, but it has this. So I mean, it's basically the same thing. You know, just abstracting over Russia instead of Germany and acting like Russia's special for some reason. And it's like, there is no Russia. Like, what's important about all this is that these people are abstracting over nonsense. Like, they're abstracting over nation. Like, you need to go and you need to attack and destroy the idea of nation until nobody, like, is interested in that anymore. That is the way to, whatever, get rid of this. Or, you know, just say everybody's in the nation, right? Nation goes back to natal, goes back to birth, goes back to common origin. So, like, any idea of like Russia is a common origin or something, you're just stopping the story at a certain point. The people from the Kievan Rus had to come from somewhere. Alexander, LOL, your name is Alexander, named after, like, from that perspective, Van makes a lot of sense. From the perspective that you need to go and find a new monster. From the perspective that Pyrrho needs to go talk to the gymnosophists. Like, so anyway, what I'm trying to say is like Alexander the Great, right, is what I'm talking about. And Alexander the Great took a philosopher named Pyrrho to India, and that was actually the most important part of what happened. Like, I don't care about the Persian Empire, whatever, who cares? What's important is, you know, Pyrrho went and talked to people from India, and that's why there are no, like, separate cultures. People have been walking around and talking to each other the whole time. Alexander, oh my God. I'm so sick of Alexander Dugin. He's so fucking annoying and so fucking stupid. If I got to talk to him for 5 minutes on CNN, you'd never see him again. Oh my God, it's so embarrassing. Anyway, but so what's going on with this, right? So again, what you're doing is you're abstracting over political philosophy. You're abstracting over geopolitics. You're abstracting over religion. You're abstracting over everything. Right, to create what seems like a cohesive discourse that then people can slot themselves into. The problem is, right, that Dugin's discourse is actually completely not coherent. In addition to, you know, esoteric neo-Nazism, like this shit is not coherent. So the reason why it's so easy for me as Yoshimi to just like, I'm not even have to be a black belt in karate. I don't take vitamins. I don't discipline my body. These people are not like, these people are going to like, without me, like this would kill you. But since I'm just here half-assing my shit, like these people have no chance because this is all very stupid. Because like, again, going back to nation and this partiality, this going back to a partiality of like a common origin. It's like, what do you think that like whatever you're calling a common origin that you're again abstracting over to say, you know, Plymouth Rock or whatever the fuck it is you're talking about, whatever Shambhala or whatever, right? Like whatever it is you're talking about, like that is also the outcome of a process. The same way Dugin or whatever sits there talking about traditional values, he really should have a ball gag installed because until he says something that is worthwhile and not a complete affront to, you know, my dignity, yeah, he needs to be completely muffled or put in conversation with me so that I can educate him, right, about, you know, his inadequacy. Anyway, so what was I saying? So you're abstracting over, right? Oh, Russia, Mother Russia. It's like, again, the people from Kiev and Rus had to come from somewhere, Alexander, like, and yeah, but see, that's where you get into all these stories, right? Because then I could say something like, well, everybody is from a common origin. We all come from Africa, right? Whatever. Again, Africa is a Roman name. Like, there's no reason to anyway. But then, like, that's also, again, the official story of history because we're back to the UFOs, right? What if we were genetically engineered, right? Uh-oh, you know? And so it's like, that's where, you know, science is breaking down. Like, science cannot give you the answers. So, like, we can sit here and try and be rational little liberals and just be like, well, if you look at the evidence, blah, blah, blah. It's like nobody fucking cares about your fucking evidence, okay? Like, what they care about is a story that they can slot themselves into. So the reason why evolution works is that you can teach people evolution and then they will just think that they're smarter than other people. But so what's going on is not that evolution makes a ton of sense or is the perfect story, but the fact that you're giving people a way to feel good about themselves. That is what is going on. And so that is fundamentally the appeal of a Duginism or an esoteric neo-Nazism. So the problem is, right, that you need to come up with a story that's also going to let people feel good about themselves, that's also going to take the sting out of all this, right, and shut these people up forever, at least until they get a fucking clue and stop trying to kill people. Right? Like all these people, oh, let's kill these people. Oh, there's a scapegoat. Oh, the evil globalist, whatever. Like, as long as you think you have an enemy, you are a fool. You're not wise, right? Go read Buddhadasa, right? There is no religion, right? There is no nation. And back again to network, right? The network speech. There is no West. There is no whatever. There is no America. Like all these things are, again, abstractions. And again, going back to Baudrillard. Okay, so like that's the thing you need to understand. Like esoteric neo-Nazism or esoteric Nazism is not, I repeat, is not, you know, like the master discourse, right? Like I have been saying, you know, Adolf Hitler's shadow hangs over our age or whatever. That's from your perspective. Adolf Hitler, from my perspective, may have held the crown for like 35 years between 1933 and 1968. But that's when a little motherfucker called Jean Baudrillard came along and showed the world what the fuck is what with the system of objects, okay? So once the system of objects, which like, you know, like that's not even Baudrillard's most intense book, right? But like Baudrillard just immediately overtakes Adolf Hitler because it's like, and that's where it's like, but Adam, you know, nobody knows about Jean Baudrillard. Like, oh my God, like, you know, Adolf Hitler is so famous and blah, blah, blah. Yeah, that doesn't fucking matter, right? It doesn't matter what you know about because again, we're talking about abstraction. It's in the water that you swim in. It doesn't matter whether you know about it. You are fucked. Like, that's what you need to understand. It doesn't matter whether you can feel the big black cock go in. It is now pumping its seed all the way up your guts into your fucking brain like they talk about in Reservoir fucking Dogs. Okay? So, Baudrillard's up to this. And then, so I would say maybe Grimes takes over for Baudrillard. So like Grimes, and then I have an interesting time like trying to parse this because Misanthropocene is the reason, right? Like if Grimes had died in 2019, like I mean, Art Angels is still pretty good, but like basically nobody would care, right? I mean, compared to Adolf Hitler and Jean Baudrillard, Grimes would be like whatever, like if she had died in 2019. But because Misanthropocene was released, she's overtaking Baudrillard. But so that's really fucking crazy because, like, the way that I think about it, Adolf Hitler set the high score here. And then you got to think about it like Babe Ruth with home runs, right? Before Babe Ruth, the career record in home runs was like 100 or something. And Babe Ruth was like, yeah, check this out, motherfucker, right? So, like, Adolf Hitler, like, I'm sorry, you think Adolf Hitler's a big deal? Like, you think Adolf Hitler, like, made his mark on history? Fuck that. Jean Baudrillard came in, just fucking, and again, like, my metaphor here is the Penal Colony by Franz Kafka. This is where you have, oh shit, that's not the right one. So this is basically where, and again, Franz Kafka's German. Sorry, like, or maybe he's from Austria. I don't fucking care. But whatever, he was writing in German, or German anyway. So it's like it carves the commandment into your skin. So that's what Adolf Hitler is sitting there carving a swastika into space time, right? And so that's why going back to I was talking about this. Like, the problem with esoteric with Nazism is, like, you can't do stuff like swastika, the name Adolf, fucking toothbrush mustache. These things are completely ruined, right? There's no way that you could ever see a swastika again if you're a certain thing. I'm sure there's some people in Tibet who never heard of Adolf Hitler or whatever, but it's like for in the public sphere or whatever, if you see a swastika, what is it that we're thinking about? We're thinking about Adolf Hitler and the fucking Nazis, right? So that's the problem, because then the issue is not just that it's identifiable, because a good example is, Alexa, the name. Like, people probably aren't naming their kids Alexa as much because there's this Amazon thing called Alexa, right? And so if you have a person named Alexa, people are constantly just going to be thinking about Amazon, and you don't want that, right? So that's why, whatever, right? But so Amazon itself is problematic. You can look at the Aamon Animations. There's one at least that references gosh darn Amazon. So Amazon is itself, an eldritch abomination, and Jeff Bezos is a whatever, a tentacled monster. Anyway, I can't. But I mean, just to say, like, this shit is fucking crazy. Like, if you watch this on psilocybin, like, you're gonna be fucked. Anyway, there's one of these. I think it's like one that has fucking Bernie Sanders. Fudge. It was like the big one. Anyway, I'm getting tied up here. I don't have enough time for this. Anyway, but like Amazon is itself like already problematic, right? But then and also note Amazon is named after a river, right? So now when you think of Amazon, like, it ruined the name because there's a river which has been supplying nutrients to life forms for billions of years or whatever, thousands of years. I don't know how long rivers exist. But now, just because Jeff Bezos came along and had some fucking idea and did logistics, now Amazon means, whatever, some stupid shit. Anyway, neo-Nazism is even worse, right? It's not like imagine people were running around named Adolf, I mean, of course, which happened, and then Adolf Hitler comes around, and compare that to Amazon with Alexa, and you're just named Alexa, and then Amazon's Alexa comes around, and that ruins your life. Imagine what it would be like if, you were named Adolf, or you're Charlie Chaplin. You have the toothbrush mustache. You've been rocking this for years, and now somebody comes along and ruins it. Or imagine you're Jane, you're whatever. You do the swastika. You are, what's it called? Navajo, right? They love that shit too. And now all of a sudden somebody comes along and is just like, hey, you know what? I'm going to be the most famous person of all time and commit the worst atrocities of all time, which I just put in quotation marks, not because they're not bad, but because this whole idea of ranking things, anyway, is for the birds. But what you're doing is you're creating this association, which is a concept handle. So something like the swastika, toothbrush mustache, the name Adolf, these become concept handles. But so what are they mapping to? That's the other problem, because Alexa maps to Amazon, but Amazon doesn't have an integrated mythopoetic world ideology, which is going to take over everything and kill everybody, unlike esoteric Nazism, right? So the problem is that that's why, people don't actually want to get into the details of Nazism. All they want to do is call people a Nazi and make them shut up, where they're just coasting on World War II propaganda or whatever, and the way America has tried to make hay America over like, oh, we're not the Nazis, we're the good guys, which was bullshit from day one, by the way. Go read Albert Camus and about the nihilism of Western civilization. Like, Western civilization, fuck. How do they not foreground the PDF? Like, what I want is the PDF. Like, you think I want to buy this book? You gotta be fucking kidding me. Like, they had a better version too. Anyway, that's not important. But so, like, yeah, so that's the problem. So that's why you have these giant robots, because you have a bunch of people who are against Nazism and against Eurasianism or whatever, but they don't know what the fuck they're talking about because they can't do abstraction. Because Dugin is actually, what to say? I really think it's not as advanced. I think esoteric Nazism eats Eurasianism for breakfast, right? Like, Eurasianism is a derivative discourse, and like, yeah, it's kind of just stupid. Like, I don't really understand the appeal for anybody, like why anybody would give a shit about this. But of course, that's also true of Nazism. But anyways, but the point is, like, from your perspective, these things are unsurmountable enemies, because it's basically like you're fighting in 2 dimensions, and then here come people in 3 dimensions, right? Like, you're doing land and sea battle, and here comes somebody who can like go in the air, right? Which means you're fucked, right? Like, you have no, and what that represents, right, is lateral thinking. What that represents is syncretism. What that represents is creating conceptual hyper objects, which are basically designed works of art. And again, remember about a work of art, what's powerful about it is the fact that the meaning of a work of art is created each time it is observed. So the Mona Lisa, right, for example, has been observed millions or billions of times, I don't know. And every single time somebody looks at it, that's a new experience. It's not just one object, right? Which is, again, esoteric Nazism and Duginism. It's not just one constellation of ideas, right? Different people can parse it in different ways and apply different points of emphasis and even, disavow or whatever different parts of it. But it doesn't matter because it's this huge tentacle fucking mess, right? It's a big mess. It is a fucking tar baby. And yeah, this is a racist story, but like that makes perfect sense, right? The tar baby, right, is basically like something you hit it and then you just get stuck. It's like you try to attack it, but you can't, right? Because you're stupid, right? Like, you don't understand what you're doing. You don't understand that what you're doing is getting into conceptual quicksand, which is exactly what's happening when you try to just like march into esoteric Nazism and be like, oh, look at how stupid it is. Anyway, so I gotta go for now, but hope you've been enjoying. See you out later.